So I often joke that I hate it when I'm timely. And unfortunately, I write about ecological collapse, so I'm very timely these days. I have a book that came out in October, that's the one that's here, and is for sale, which is a memoir about collapsing marine ecosystems. And I have this book, which seemed more appropriate for this event, because it's speculative fiction, called All the Water in the World, which is coming out in early January. And if you want to pre-order it, the nice people here at Volumes have said that they can help you do that. I'm just going to begin at the beginning. Part 1, The Monster in the Water. The monster in the water. This is the hypercane, the biggest kind of hurricane there could be. It is maybe not something that has ever happened on Earth. It is maybe something that never will. It is a theoretical idea, that's what Jess said. It is a possible outcome that Jess studied, where nonlinear weather changes could supercharge atmospheric conditions and produce super dense eye walls and fast-moving storms. Hypercanes could pull energy from the warmer water and spawn tornadoes and locally intense downdrafts. The rain could be sideways or include hail. It could have a very fast rate of precipitation per hour. It could have the most destructive winds possible, ranging up to 200 miles per hour. I have never seen a hypercane, and maybe they are not real and will never be real, like a monster in the water that never comes. From the Water Logbook. Chapter 1, What We Save. I can feel water and I can feel heavy weather on the way. Mother said, you're like a dowser, Noni, like those people who can feel water under the ground and help farmers find it, only you do it with water everywhere. What she said is so. I can understand water, floods and rivers over their banks, storms and clouds and placid days when the droplets sit in the air like they are thinking quietly of joining the earth. But the storm that took Amen, that storm I didn't feel. It was too big. It was the one that broke the flood walls. That was the last night of the old city and the museum and Amen and everything that trapped us when the wide Hudson opened its mouth wider and became the sea. And the sea came to us and we took off north, no matter how scared Bix was, no matter how hard it was to leave Mother behind. It was the storm that started something new. We still live in the place we called Amen, what had been the American Museum of Natural History. Time made us shorten the name. We said AMNH for the whole place, the ancient rooms we tended, the collections we protected, then Amen when it only meant the village we made on the roof of the museum library, the name a prayer to keep us safe. And we were safe up there a long time. Bix and me and Father and Keller and Mother before we lost her, and the rest of us working to save the collections and be there, just be there, saving each other too. I was young then, 13, Bix 16. I was a blur of closed heart and quiet voice, scared of the dark and of losing home, cozied in a place Mother made for us on the roof, where time and space were as fixed as they could be in the world as it is. Father said we would run north to Mother's land in Tyringham, our taiga, our last safe place if we lost Amen. We made the go packs and canoe, learned to hunt, worried about the dogs and the lost, about guns, about how people outside Amen formed into groups by color, about everything between Amen and Tyringham. We worried about losing Amen. In the museum logbook, we kept a list of all the things that might be lost. Everything in the museum. The adults made notations on anthropology, archaeology, geology, paleontology, ichthyology, hydrology, geography, entomology. The museum records no one could read anymore on computers. They made notes from memory or books in the library, from listing the contents of cases and storage drawers and displays, and the contents, and there was my list, my shadow list. In the margins and on back pages, I added drawings and notes on water and how I understood it. The clouds, the shine on a puddle, the animals after they drank, the rainbow over the city, the way to feel the pressure drop for a squall or build for a hurricane. I added them to help me remember and for other people to find one day if all they found was the book. The museum logbook was to keep understanding alive, the most important work there was for Amen, a race against rot and mold and time to save things, even the memory of things. My water logbook was only for the future. I was young then and didn't know why I was making it. Now I know it was to make the new way of knowing that might put it all right again, the new thing I'm standing at the edge of, here where there is drinkable water, and where people are in the rooms of the house writing and cooking, and I'm about to leave again, but only for good reasons, remembering what was left behind in that storm. My water logbook didn't help me see that storm. I didn't know what it would bring, the journey and the people who helped and the ones who harmed. That storm, the last storm of Amen, was a hypercane, like Jess predicted, the monster in the water. It moved faster than thought and faster than sense. It swept in to take everything, and I didn't see it. I was a girl on a roof, and I couldn't tell everyone. The end is here. Chapter 2, Hypercane. Everyone else was asleep on the roof, in tents and structures up there, sweating out the November heat. It was so still, all the air was sucked out of breathing. I couldn't sleep. I didn't know why. Something wasn't right, but I couldn't feel what. I took the plastic bag out from under my pillow and looked at the photograph inside it, smoothed the bag's wrinkles out, and looked at Mother's face. Not smiling at the camera, but pointed toward a microscope, her profile blurry in the darkness. Then the air was pulled out of my lungs, the world inhaling before a scream, and a wind hit the longhouse hard. Bix's body tumbled into mine face to face and staring. I felt Bix breathing, felt her fear, wanted to reach to her like she was small and I was small, and we were in the twin bed in the old apartment, and Mother was still alive and would lie down with us and brush our hair back and kiss our foreheads and say, "Good morning, my sea butterflies." Lightning flashed. "Noni, Bix!" Father's voice. "Alan!" Keller was reaching for gear. The wind scattered all our things. Bix slipped into big sister bossing. She almost screamed into my mouth, "Go, Noni!" I found shoes and go pack. In my pack, I had the logbook, wrapped in oiled canvas and safe from rain, tucked under my rain shell for extra protection. I felt for it. It was there. I'd kept it with me for months. There was strange weather. There was so much to make note of. It felt safer to have it with me after Mother died. No chance to lose it in a storm. I shoved a baggie with Mother's picture next to it. I felt for my water bottle, the ammonite. A sound like a giant taking a bite out of the top of a forest echoed overhead, and the roof above me was gone. Shock drained into my blood. "Run!" Father yelled. And I put the pack on my back and ran. Bix and Keller and I reached the longhouse door. As the wall poles buckled, we pushed outside, and I turned to look as the house crumpled, going down like one of Keller's shot deer, knees falling under it. "Run!" Keller shouted. It took only a second for the place we'd lived for 8 years to fall to the hypercane. The storm didn't care at all. I stood and stared. "Noni!" Father called, running for the stairwell, Bix and Keller behind him. I stood still. I couldn't remember what to do. I knew I needed to follow, but I watched the storm build behind them. I moved one foot in their direction. I made the seconds small and fast. This is how it was in a night storm. We got up, we got safe. In a bad storm, we ran for the museum library below us, the windowless stacks, safe as a thick-walled bunker, dark, mold-smelling, and caked in lonely days and nights spent waiting out storms. I stumbled, followed Father and Keller and Bix through the storm-pitched pieces of Amen coming apart, people's faces I loved floating past, the pressure sinking so fast my teeth itched. Around the broken frame of our house, tarps and poles of other structures collapsed in the gale. People crawled from under on their bellies. Wind moved through Amen, a curious animal, ate up what it found until there wasn't a thing left to eat. My ears popped. The pressure fell. Wind braided and doubled with a funnel cloud forming over the park, coming our way. I saw Jess and Beaumont at their hut. She was pulling out a pack. He carried a jug of water, a lantern, his bow. She was carrying baby Evangeline in a sling around her body, stooped over her so the rain wouldn't hit the baby's face, compass around her neck. She looked up at me and saw me. I screamed at her, "The monster in the water?" "Yes, Noni," she yelled back over the storm. "Get to the stacks. I'm right behind you." "Okay." The baby worried me. There was so much wind. "Remember the shark," she yelled, hoisting the pack onto her shoulders. I remembered what she'd told me. When I was scared and started to disappear into silence and blankness, I would think about how you can hypnotize sharks by rubbing your fingers down their snout. It calms them so they don't panic. When I started to panic and go back to quiet, to hiding, Jess said I could rub the skin between my thumb and forefinger with the fingers of my other hand, and I would feel calm too, and maybe not need to disappear at all. "Go, Noni, I'll be right there," Jess yelled over the wind. I found speed then, my feet obeying where my mind did not. A downpour of water came almost too dense for moving, a heart of lightning, random hail, a voice of the wind that shut out thought, and then I was running to catch Bix's advancing back, chasing her like a ghost through the unknown air. Chapter 3, Leningrad. Mother was never afraid of the water like Bix was. She was like me, she loved it. She studied sea butterflies, pteropods, at Amen. Mother worked at the museum in the world as it was. She was the one with the keys. She brought us there when the city fell down. We went to the safest place we knew, big old doors and big old locks, and lots of other people with keys who walked there through the water one night and stayed on because no one was coming to save anybody. I was in love with Amen already. When we were small, before things changed, on Sunday afternoons, Mother went in to get more hours in the lab, and Father walked Bix and me around the dark, still rooms, while people we didn't know looked at the bones and the birds and the beasts. We would lie under the great blue whale, and I would pretend I was under the ocean. It was a place that said, time broke everything before and repaired it new. Sometimes new was better, and sometimes new was worse. But if there was a change, it would change again. As the broken world turned outside the walls, I longed for the quiet rooms that taught me that. Mother didn't like the subway entrance, brought Bix and me in from the street, up the big stairs and to the big doors, right past the statue of Teddy Roosevelt. She cataloged pteropods in a basement lab, and the sea butterflies told her everything she needed to know about what was happening in the world, the change of chemistry in the ocean, the things we were doing to break it, the things we might do to make it whole again. It was the only work that mattered, she said sometimes, when she forgot to be humble, and in the joy of walking into the museum. In her voice, there was something else too, greed, hope. The picture in my plastic baggie used to hang on the fridge in our 10th Street apartment, her head bent over a microscope looking at a specimen, mouse brown hair tied back in a ponytail, long beak nose pointing at the instrument like an arrow. There was another picture in the lab too, Mother with her arms around another worker when they got a grant, champagne bottle on the table in front of them. That picture was lost in the flood. The world as it is doesn't let you keep things. But her body kept that arrow gesture in her bones, her whole life bent toward research, never wavering, even when she couldn't work like that. She had keys to the kingdom. She won them herself. She gave the museum to Bix and me. By the night of the storm that took it, Amen only had a few people left, all too scared or sick to take the walk north, sleeping on the roof in lean-tos and made-up structures. Used to be only tents there, then the rule was if you stayed, you built solid. The roof was the only way to survive the rotting city. The people who might break a window and get into Amen until they saw there was nothing that would feed them. We were high on the roof, safe from people with guns or dogs, the old building rotting and dangerous below. Shelters kept the rain off, fought the heat. We had a garden in the park. When we went, we carried 2 guns we had left, the ammo we saved. The ones who knew how carried bows we made or scavenged. We grew food, we had bees, we went out, we came back. When we were lucky, the empty city echoed around us, dog packs off hunting deer. The longer we were in Amen, the luckier we got. The quieter it was. A whole city moved off to find good water. We were like the people in Leningrad, Father said. In the war, the second one, the Hermitage, a museum bigger than ours even, was left for dead in a dying city, but the curators stayed. There wasn't much left, but in Leningrad, in the siege, in the war, the curators stayed and ate restorers' paste to stay alive and wrapped the dead and laid them in the basement until the thaw and chipped the ice off the paintings while the siege went on outside. All that mattered was that the art remained. Even if they could have run away across Lake Ladoga and into the edges of the taiga forest and hidden with what they knew, they wouldn't have left. They belonged to the art, and the art belonged to them, and it was a sacred duty. But so was the vision of what it would be one day when the siege was over and the windows replaced and the broken walls repaired and the museum alive again for everyone, for the world that mattered, the one they wanted. That was us. Only the siege was storms. We stayed because we had to, because Bix was too terrified of the water to go, but we stayed because it was the work, mother's and father's work, the reason they met, the work of keeping what was left until the world was ready again. Chapter 4, The End of the Roof. Keller reached the stairwell first. He grabbed the metal pipe wedged into the stairwell door handles. He wrenched it free. I left the door wide behind me, ran after Bix deeper into the dark. I was halfway down the stairs, rain blowing in through the open door. Trying not to fall as I ran, I heard a woman's voice, turned to see Jess and baby Evangeline and Sergio and Louis framed by the doorway, lit by a burst of lightning. I was deep in a well, sheltered, turned awkwardly to look at them, and they were up in the storm. Outside was a growl of wind louder than anything I ever heard, reaching down to the echo chamber of the stairs, and behind the growl, a blow shook the building. A pressure change took my breath. A funnel cloud reared up, and it was so huge that I could see it through the doorway behind Sergio and Louis and Jess and Evangeline. The hand of the cloud reached down and grabbed the doorway, the bricks and concrete where we slept, the stairwell above me, the people standing there as if they were dust, and threw them all out into the sky. Thank you.